In 2018, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said this.
Well, unemployment is low because everyone has two jobs. Unemployment is low because people are working 60, 70, 80 hours a week and can barely feed their kids.
Then the media had a shitstorm.
That's not how unemployment statistics work. The Bureau of Labor Statistics gets its unemployment figure by measuring the number of available workers without a job and actively looking for one against the people who have at least one job. You don't get counted twice if you have two jobs. What's more, BLS says about 5% of employed people have more than one job, and it says about 4.8% of people working two jobs have two full-time jobs.
What do you think about that? You've got two very famous now Democrats saying you need two jobs to get ahead in the world.
Well, I don't think they have it right. Here in Iowa, we have 50,000 jobs that are unfilled because our unemployment is so low. What we need to focus on is making sure that our workers have the necessary jobs to advance. And the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, of course, has really helped our employers and employees. Wages have gone up, and we're very excited about it.
And we're going to get to that.
Let me say this because
Go ahead.
let me go comment on that. 148 million Americans are working. 7 or 8 million have more than one job.
PolitiFact gave Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez a pants-on-fire rating for two aspects of this sentence. First, her use of the word everyone. Not everyone has two jobs. In fact, most people don't. PolitiFact goes on to assert that multiple job holders have fallen slightly since 1994. Second, her suggestion that there's a causal relationship between people working two jobs and low unemployment. PolitiFact asserts that a person with two jobs is not counted as twice employed by the Bureau of Labor.
This is true, but there's a different correlation
Between the current low unemployment and multiple job holders, because there's a correlation between unemployment and low wages. In an op-ed, economist Paul Krugman tries to explain the apparent contradiction between decreasing unemployment and wage stagnation. He suggests that the cause is the current monopsony power that employers have in the labor market. Monopsony power in a labor market means that employers are not competing with each other for workers and are therefore able to pay less. Even though employers are complaining about labor shortages, Krugman argues that this is normal, as employers will always want to pay their workers less in the same way they would always prefer to make more sales. For workers, it becomes more difficult, without taking more jobs or working long hours, to live and pay basic expenses like rent and healthcare, which have been rising higher than inflation every year. This wage stagnation is partly the result of the Great Recession. During the recession, employers chose to fire part of their workforce rather than cut wages. They were used to an unlimited supply of job seekers lining up at the door. Now that employment is full, they see too few or unqualified applicants and blame the workers rather than raising wages. PolitiFact has presented a straw man by assuming Cortez was saying the cause had anything to do with the way the Bureau of Labor Statistics records its data. In short, companies have created so many job openings because they can get away with paying so little in this economy. So the statement unemployment is low because wages are low is not wrong. It's actually a plausible theory supported by many economists. Of course, the claim that everyone has two jobs is false, but should be seen as an exaggeration. PolitiFact mentions that the rate of multiple job holders has fallen from 6.5% and stayed around 4.7 to 5.3% ever since. If we look at this article from the Bureau of Labor Statistics from 1997, we can see that multiple job holders rose from 4.7 million to 7.2 million people from 1980 to 1991. But multiple job holders stayed around 5% of the workforce for the entire decade. Similarly, Bloomberg economist Sri Kumar suggested in 2017 that multiple job holders were up from 7.4 million in 2016 to 7.6 million, an increase of 2%. And yet during that time, people with more than one job stayed around 5% of the workforce. What is going on here? Either PolitiFact is being intentionally deceptive with their data, or they simply do not realize that since the 1950s, moonlighters have always represented 4 to 6% of the workforce, no matter how high or low the unemployment rate. During economic recessions, when fewer people are employed, fewer people also have a second job. While it's a common belief that people take a second job during recessions due to economic hardship, in fact, it increases with growing employment opportunities during economic expansions, such is the case in the Trump era. What Cortez is really talking about is low wages are creating more people with side jobs, which are increasing, though only at the same pace as total employment. But she's also referring to the gig economy, where side jobs are temporary and do not come with benefits or full-time employment. In her own words, this is what she meant to say. Also, in the context of the interview, it's clear that this is what she meant.
Explain, in your view, what it is about democratic socialism that appeals to millennials and young people. Well, I think that for our generation, we kind of view the world through a very different lens. In my life, for example, I was born in 1989. And so at that point, I was growing up during the Clinton era. And then basically when I was in middle school, 9/11 happened. So when you think about young people, it's important to think about the general timeline, the world that we grew up in. I was about 17, 18 years old when the financial crisis hit. We never experienced really a time of true economic prosperity in the United States, and a lot of what we have witnessed is the unprecedented concentration of wealth at the very tippy top of the 1%, and we've seen the consolidation of corporations start to really erode our wages, really erode access to health care. And so I think young people are very receptive to a very strong economic message of dignity for working class Americans.
We all would like to think we aren't influenced by propaganda. The US is one of only 5 countries in the world with no paid maternity leave. 145 other countries provide paid sick days, most providing a week or more annually. 134 countries have laws setting the maximum length of the work week. The US does not. Cortez is a candidate who would fight for those things, and powerful people don't want you to believe it can be done here in America. The idea that Cortez is misinformed because of one ambiguous statement is pure propaganda.